Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another installment of Flyer. Again, a Flyer. We got another good one for you this week. This was a little abbreviated episode, but it's going to be a good one. Don't worry, we got plenty of content to talk about. As usual, going over last week's games, unfortunately, because they haven't been doing a lot of winning lately, and we are by law have to do it. It's part of the show. We have to go over the last week's games, even though they're terrible. But trust me, we're not going to be on them long. We're going to be talking also about Travis Konecny. He's been on a bit of a slump lately. Last two games, he's played a little bit better, but there's been some reports that he may or may not be dealing with a potential shoulder injury. And we're going to be going over this as well. And a little something I potentially heard behind the scenes about this possible injury, too. And not only that, we're going to be talking about potential line combinations that me and Eric would like to potentially see the rest of the year. So sit back, relax, get ready. Another installment of Flyer Again, a Flyer is coming at you next. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Flyer Again, a Flyer, our 36th episode. These episodes are just coming left and right now. It feels like yesterday we were just on episode 10 or 11. Crazy how much the season's flown by.
Consistency, my friend. You do them every week. They add up.
Well, I know, and it's a blur. Suddenly we're already this high. It's crazy, but you know what? You got to enjoy it too. But anyway, we got a good one for you this week, as stated. I know last week we stated that Eric wasn't likely going to be with us, and Jamey was, but little things happened behind the scene and ended up getting flip-flop. So with me this week, we will not have Jamey. However, we do have one of my awesome co-hosts, Mr. Eric Martino. Eric, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. I know I wasn't supposed to be here. I was in Plattsburgh for my daughter's tournament. She had a tournament in Plattsburgh, and I was able to make it on time finally for the show. And I just got like one question there, Alex, because you're there in the States. We're here in Canada. But why are your rinks so goddamn cold? Like, I don't understand. Like, you're walking into a freezer into the stands. It makes no sense. Like, I'm sick. I'm congested. I've been fighting a cold for like a week now, and I gotta walk into like whatever minus 30 Celsius in Fahrenheit is, and I'm freezing.
Where did you end up going for these games?
It was called the American Sports Center in Plattsburgh. I don't know.
Oh,
But like, I went there. It was freezing cold. Like, my cousin played for the junior Flyers in Voorhees, freezing in there too. Another one of my cousins played high school hockey in Rhode Island, freezing in his stadiums too. So I was like, what the why?
The states always like to make sure that their rinks are extra cold because during the summer they get a little choppy. We're in March, closing in on April now. And I'll tell you here, living in Massachusetts, the ice rinks here, they get choppy if they don't stay at a particular level of coldness. Canada doesn't quite get as warm as the States do. So maybe that might be why they don't have to keep it quite as cold. But listen, even in my high school arenas that I've walked into too, they are freezing in there. Like it's like walking into a friggin' refrigerator, and it's bad. It smells like nothing but BO and frozen pond. And you know what? Yeah, I've gotten used to it at this point. So I guess at the same time, it's a little bit welcoming it being that cold because it feels comforting, I think is a better word.
Oh, I don't think so.
Not comforting like a way like, ooh, I'm comfortable in here. I'm used to this now.
Eric, from one Canadian to another, you know what they say? Americans don't know shit about hockey rinks.
Listen, is that why Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup since '93?
Yeah. Try. That's not going to hurt me. No, but seriously, you don't. Even in the small rinks here, the indoor ones, you don't freeze your ass off inside.
No, it's.
So I don't understand why.
Like I said, I think it's benches. I truly think it's weather-based because the rinks get very choppy as it starts to warm up here. It was 60 degrees here yesterday. Today's a little colder, but just think about that. If they don't keep it at that level of temperature, you're going to see very choppy conditions. So that's my guess.
Also, we've got good Canadian equipment underneath making the ice. I mean, it's got to be what it is.
That could be part of it too. I don't know if I can say this about every arena, but a lot of the pro ones in the NHL share an arena with the NBA. The Celtics do, the Bruins, the Flyers do with the Sixers. I'm pretty sure the Dallas Stars do with the Mavericks. I know MSG does with the Rangers and Knicks.
The Rangers is the worst ice in the league because of so many shows, and
Just think about it.
That's probably your culprit more than anything.
I think it's a mixture of both.
Ice.
But it could be. But
Anyway,
so Flyers played a couple games this week, and like it has been for quite some time, they lost them. They lost 2-0 to Tampa on Monday in a game they just didn't really generate much offense at all. I mean, I will say Evan Fedotov played good in that game. Then they had a game on Thursday against the Capitals where they fought. I will give them that. After 2 really crappy, boring periods, that third period they came out with some juice and fought hard. Lost 3-2, but they gave a little bit of a push. And then this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, back-to-back. Saturday, they lose 3-2 to the Stars in overtime. And again, in a game they fought after kind of a first period where they didn't play terrible. They just got horrific goaltending. Second period, they fought better. And then allowed a goal 9 seconds into overtime. And then today, I guess defense and goaltending was optional all around. Eric, I'll leave it to you. What do you think about this week just as a whole?
Well, what I thought about this week is the tank is on, baby. Let's go. Like the closer we can get to like a 4th or 3rd spot overall, to pick overall, man, the better for us. Because look, like we said previously, this is the best thing for us. And look, and it's not like we played any bad teams. Look, Tampa, Dallas, these are like we lost to Chicago today, but whatever. But yeah, no, like this is what, like I said, this is pretty much what I expect going forward this season. And look, Fedotov didn't play super great tonight. This afternoon I should say.
All weekend.
All weekend. I didn't watch the Dallas game because we're like.
I'll put it this way: 1 for 3 in net.
That's what I heard. I heard he let in 2-on-3 shots or something like that. But yeah, no. Well, and then like today, look, again, he didn't have a great game, but I can't put this all like I saw a lot of tweets during the game like about Fedotov, but like, come on, man, like how many goals did they just let him out to dry? Power play, the penalty kill was awful tonight.
Yeah, that I agree.
Like, I would say at least 2 of the 7 were on Fedotov. Like he could have at least played it better or had them, but like I get it. Like we said, look, the guy's not a starter. Like at best, he's a backup. But like I've said also previously, I'd rather see more of him to be absolutely sure what he is than Urson. Because look, you're not there. I strongly doubt they're gonna trade Urson. I'm pretty sure Urson is gonna be part of the plans going forward, whether it's gonna be him and Kolosov or him and Bjornsson, him and Zavragin eventually. I don't know. But he's young enough that he could still be part of the mix in the coming next years. But look, Fedotov, we know he won't be most probably. So best case, he plays well down the stretch and we raise his value and maybe someone takes a chance on him, or you buy him out or mutually terminate at the end of the before next season. So we'll see. But look, pretty much what I expected. We're not gonna win with the talent that we have right now against some of these juggernaut teams.
Yeah. And to piggyback a little bit off of what you just said, for me, these 4 games have just shown the talent gap. I will give the Flyers this. They're playing hard. They're not packing it in. And this is the IO of John Tortorella, that when they play games under him, he makes sure that they play hard. They played very hard against Washington in that third period. They played hard, I think, overall in the entirety of that Dallas game. Today, I think, was one of, if not their worst defensive game of the year. I think Fedotov did allow some softies. There was at least 2 or 3 I could point to where I'm like, oh, my God, you got to make that save. There was one yesterday against Dallas. The second goal he made against Dallas, just a clean snipe low to the blocker, or he just flat out missed. And I'm like, bro, come on. So, like, there was some he definitely needed to save. But their penalty kill, as you mentioned, was atrocious. There was 2 goals that were tap-ins right in front of the net that they didn't clear bodies in front of. one being a 5-on-3. So
Yeah.
some I can give a little bit of break to. They killed a minute 15 of off before the dam broke and Ryan Donato tapped one in. But there was some goals, like he misplayed the second cross creaser, tried poke checking it, left the net wide open. There was a goal earlier in that game. I think the third goal that Connor Bedard sniped right over his shoulder. He played way too small. This was some of the gripes we had on him earlier in the year. He does not play to his sides, and he should not be being beat over the shoulder from a shot that far out. Like, you're a 6'8" goalie. Play your size, man. Come out of the net a little bit and eliminate the elevation of the shot. That's on you. But then, like I said, as we mentioned, those two bad PK goals. I thought the defense was terrible in that second period. That second period was just a prototypical horrid second period from the Flyers, defensively especially. On the positive, I think Mitchkov got 3 points this weekend. Should have been 4. I'm still having gripes over the first one that got taken away, but whatever. 3-point weekend from him, so that was positive. Travis Konecny looked like he found his game a little bit. 2 goals and an assist. Jamey Drysdale continues to show consistencies of improvement. And, you know, if we had to make a list of one of the most improved Flyers for the year, it's him. And he continues to show consistent, good play as a whole. He's looking like a guy you can truly build around for the future, is Jamey Drysdale. And maybe if you can get a power play coach worth a damn, you could teach him how to be a good, consistent power play quarterback and bump his points up by about 20 next year. But, you know, we have Rocky Thompson right now, so obviously that's not happening this year. But anyway, what I took it from this weekend as a whole, defensively, they looked porous this weekend. They looked good in net in the first 2 games. I will say, I thought Fedotov had a good game against Tampa. They didn't win, but, you know, I think he only allowed 1 or 2 goals. And I think he only allowed 1 goal, because I remember correctly, the second goal was an empty netter. Then they played against Washington, and I think Urson got that game. And again, I don't think he played too bad in that one either. Although, when you also allow 3 goals on like 17 shots, I think it was, you got to make a save to help that save percentage. 16, even worse. So you would like to make a save to make it look better on statistically. Although if you go goal by goal, I'd maybe probably only put 1 on him. But again, you want to make a save too, to make up for some lapses here and there, especially if you want to show that you're an NHL quality starter, which I think he's a 1B at best, but that's besides the point. And then as we go over the weekend, horrid goaltending in the first period of that Stars game. The next 2 periods, they fought back, made it a game, and then collapsed, and Urson misplayed a puck in the overtime. And then today was an absolute disaster class defensively and in net, I think. More defensively, but there were some gaps in net too. Do you have anything to add, Eric?
No, just quick, just to clarify. Yeah, the second Tampa Bay goal was an empty netter.
Okay, that's what I thought.
One.
But anyway, moving on. So the episode name is Konnectny the Dots. I thought of it myself. I thought it was kind of clever. I don't know. You want to mock me for it, go right ahead. No, but in all seriousness. Travis Konecny has been the focal point of some discussions over the last few weeks. Although the last 2 games, he's got 2 goals and assists, which is nice to see. He finally got that 600-pound silverback gorilla off of him. So that's always good to see him get on the stat sheet. He is now tied a career high in points, just as a whole. But when you saw the pace he was on earlier in the year, you looked like you had a guy who was potentially sniffing around 90 points. Cooled off. Now he's kind of looking like in the low to mid-70s, probably. Maybe mid-70s if we get lucky. Still looking like a career high, so congratulations to Konnectny. His playmaking especially has really stood out to me this year. But there has been some talk that he might be playing through some injury. This is something that me and Eric kind of discussed last week. He mentioned a game against New Jersey that really stood out, where he took a rough hit against the boards. I think it was part of their back-to-back games in January in New Jersey, where he got hurt and potentially sustained an upper body injury. It's funny because since then, I received a few direct messages on social media, aka Twitter /X, depending on whatever you want to call it, from one of my followers And I'd like to point out a few of the things that I was told. So if you can see the picture below, right below me, we had a New York hockey writer, or I've now found out formerly known New York hockey writer, apparently talk about that Travis Konecny has been playing through a partially torn rotator cuff. That's a doozy if it's confirmed true. Now, I take this with a grain of salt. I haven't personally heard anything confirmed, and I'm going to keep this individual's name anonymous just because I didn't find anything to confirm that he did indeed say this. But I was told that this individual does believe that Konecny is playing through a partially torn rotator cuff. And there has been apparently some talk within the Flyers organization that they were thinking about shutting him down all the way back in February as well because of this. And I got this same exact message below talking about this. So I'll just read it to you just in case if you can't read it, if it's a little too small. And I quote, "The Flyers wanted to shut down Travis Konecny, but he refused because he wanted to play Four Nations. But the shoulder acted up and he had to be used on the fourth line. I think it was more the third line. John, actually, it was the fourth line.
It was the fourth.
John Cooper and the medical staff actually did the right thing, but he's continued to play through it because the needed leadership and help with the team, chopping players from the room during this rebuild. I think that's why he and Travis said that they did on the interview roughly 9 days ago is when he stated this happened. I didn't go too deep into the research in this. I didn't specifically find this interview, but I'll take this individual who sent this to me at face value. He seemed pretty confident in this, and based off of what we had seen over the last few months, this could actually be some truth to this. So, Eric, let me hand the ball off to you. Do you think Konnecny is playing through an injury of this magnitude right now? And if so, do you shut him down? Let's start with the injury part first.
Yeah, I do. And I've said it here before. I think he's hurt. He has not looked right in at the very least a month. He hasn't, and I've like even just watch him shoot. Like he doesn't look the same. He doesn't shoot the puck the same as he was earlier in the season. And if you notice, he's also passing on shooting opportunities and trying to make a pass more than actually shooting. And I think this has to do with there's something wrong whether it is his rotator cuff or something else, but there's something wrong with him. I'm convinced there is, because just by the eye test, if you watch every game, how could you not notice that there's something wrong with the guy? And even like the message said at Four Nations, like I was surprised that he was playing on a fourth line. I'm like, well, why would you have like I get kind of why you would have him there, but like at the same time, like you had some guys that were struggling up in the lineup, and you would think a guy with Konnectny's skill and with everything that he brings to the table would play higher up in the lineup, and he wasn't. He was just on the fourth line, and he was getting scratched every other game. So, and then look, since the Four Nations, he hasn't looked the same either. And look, he went 13 before he scored against Dallas. He went 13 games without a goal, and he went 23 games with only one goal. So, like, come on, like this was a guy that was on pace for what, like almost 40 goals, and then all of a sudden it just stops. Like, no, like there's slumps, and then there's like, come on, there has to be something wrong. Like this doesn't make sense. So, look, like I stated before, I think he's injured. And look, I get that they want to keep him around for morale and everything because they did gut the team a little bit. But at the same time, I think to myself, I'm like, I would want this. Like, if it is something serious that he needs surgery for, like, just do it now. Look, shut him down. And like, what do we have to gain? Like, honestly, what do we have to gain by keeping him in the lineup? Like I get it for morale and everything, but at the same time, like if depending on what the Flyers intend to do next season, if the Flyers do intend to compete next season, wouldn't you want the guy as healthy as possible to start the season?
True.
So at a certain point, you have to save these guys from themselves and be like, listen, buddy, like you're just making it worse, and we need you in for training camp to be 100%. So if you need surgery, you get it done now, so that you have the summer to rehab from the injury, and then to start training and to be 100% for training camp. Because we all know the way, like, and I don't think Torts is getting fired. So, and we all know what Torts' camps are like. So do you really want Travis Konecny at 80% or 70% at training camp going through all that? No, I don't. So for me, like we said, we have nothing to gain by having him in the lineup. So just shut him down. If he needs a surgery, go get it now and start rehabbing. And we need you for next season, buddy. Let's go.
Can I say
go right
something?
ahead, Rick.
Because I've had both my shoulders. I've torn my rotator cuff. I don't think most rotator cuff tears, I don't think they require surgery.
I think it just depends on the severity, because my father has torn both of his rotator cuffs as
Right.
well, and he did get surgery on both of them, but his were complete tears. So I think it really just depends on how severe the tear is.
That's right, because mine, you couldn't probably even see it with your eye. So like it's probably just you said partial tear.
Mm-hmm.
That means it's probably really small. He could play through it. He won't be at his best because you're going to have trouble, you said, with a shot. You're going to have trouble getting your arm up, like that kind of thing. But I don't think he's hurting himself. And I'm sure he'll be ready for training camp because, they can take care of this in the off season and he'll have plenty of time to be ready, I think. My opinion.
So when I look at this here, the thing that stands out to me is partial tear. So that's obviously big. If this was a complete tear, he wouldn't be playing. We all know that. He'd be done for the year. He would have had the surgery already.
Yeah.
I would like to think the Flyers brass, Danny, Jonesy, Torts have all talked to him and the medical staff and thought, is this something that he's going to need surgery? Because the significance of the tear is meaningful in this, if this is what he's playing through. Because if it's a partial tear, as Rick just mentioned, he may not require surgery. As I just stated, my father has torn both of his rotator cuffs. He's a carpenter. He needs his shoulder velocity and movement in order to do his job. So with that being said, I would like to think they at least said, okay, Doc, can he make this worse? Number one. Number two, is this something that he'll be ready by, say, July with, if he just gives it rest and relaxation and rehab that it's needed? Number three, what is the timetable looking like if we give him surgery? Because a rotator cuff surgery, even if he got it today, he still probably wouldn't be 100% for even beginning of the season. That's about a 6-month recovery. That's a significant injury if it's completely torn. What I like to now, I definitely think there's an injury. I agree with you, Eric, and I think it's definitely impacting his play. I would like to think that they have talked to him and he's probably given some pushback. I would have probably preferred for him to rest the rest of the year. I'm with you on this. But I'd like to think that they've probably at least talked to him, and especially the medical staff, and at least confirmed that this isn't going to affect his availability for next season, number one. Number two, this isn't going to be something that can get worse. Now, here's another completely different argument. Do you trust the Flyers medical staff? Because this medical staff has had its share of gaffes over the last couple of years. The Ryan Ellis debacle, as we've seen multiple times. Sean Couturier having one of his back surgeries fucked up and having to go through a second one, plus the core muscle surgery, obviously, that he had too. Kevin Hayes with his core muscle surgery that he had. Cam Atkinson, he missed a full year. I think he had a neck issue. Same with Joel Farabee. And he kind of got rushed back, and it affected his play for the entirety of the year when he was still here. And then they said Cam Atkinson was only supposed to be gone a couple months. He ended up missing the whole year because of a misdiagnosis. So do you trust this Flyers medical staff to evaluate Konnectny correctly? That's a completely different issue here as well.
I would say it's not a very difficult thing, and he can work through it. When I did mine, I was in physiotherapy for a different injury. That's why I tore the thing. I was still able to work out. It just was difficult to lift your arms up above your head. But I think he can play, and if it gets worse, they'll shut him down. But I think the fact that he played and after the Four Nations, I would think it's probably okay. That would be my guess.
Yeah. You can just clearly see it because he doesn't have the velocity on the shot. And as Eric mentioned, he's passing up a lot of chances compared to what he did. He had a nice shot yesterday against Dallas, which is cool to see. But in a larger picture, he doesn't have the oomph he's putting on these shots that he was before.
And also regarding the medical staff, didn't they revamp it when a couple years ago? If I'm not mistaken, didn't they?
I think
they
a
did a
little.
couple
Some of
changes.
the names they did, yes.
Yeah.
It's partially PTSD for me.
Yeah, 100%.
You've seen this shit so many times. I think it was 2 years ago they may have revamped it.
Yeah, I think so.
But
I think roughly around the time Briere took over.
yeah, it's my question. My thing is, as long as they know he can't make it worse and he doesn't need surgery at the end of the year, is the only reason why I say he can still keep playing. But at the same time, I still would probably prefer to rest him because I wouldn't even want to take that chance. But
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, like I get it. Like I've played sports before, like, and I've played through injuries before too. It's like you don't want to get out of the game.
of course,
Like I used to play goalie as for in soccer, and I remember I fractured my hand. I literally fractured my hand in the first half of a game, and I played throughout the whole game with a fracture in my hand. Like I my it was like the size of like almost like the size of a basketball by the time I took my glove off. It was like really bad. And like I played the games through like a torn MCL like in hockey, and it's like I get it. You don't want to, you don't want to let your team down. You don't want to, you want to be there. You even though you're losing, you still want to be there for the boys and everything. But like at a certain point, you gotta take your wellness into consideration and like maybe do what's best for the team, and just like shut yourself down, man. Like, look, if he wants to go through and play, look, buddy, go right ahead. If the medical staff says yeah, you can play through it, okay, go right ahead. I really, my fear is always that could he make it worse? And this is not only him, but with any player.
yeah.
You know, are
I'm with you.
you gonna make it worse to the point where it's gonna take you even longer in the off season to recover? Because at that point, then you're actually, it becomes a detriment to the team at that point.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course.
Because right now it's a lost season, but next season might not be.
That's a good question because in my opinion, you can. Like if he's in a puck battle and he's got to push, and like say push upwards on a bigger guy, I gotta think that that takes a chance that he could hurt it worse. So I would have to think that
he plays a physical style for his size too. He's
Exactly.
a smaller player, but he plays big.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Our Brad Marchand.
That's what I'm saying. So that's where I think, like, when your arms are away from your body, this is one of the things, right? If he's always got his arms close to his body, he's fine. But when they're away, you're whatever, and that's where you could hurt yourself. So I think there is a chance there, but they must have gone over that and thought that it was small enough that that it was okay. I gotta think that for you guys.
I think at the end of the day, long story, as long as they feel confident he can't make it worse and it doesn't require surgery, I guess it's okay to play. But in the last 3 or 4 games, I would like to see a call up or two and maybe just say, all right, Travis, listen, you did your thing for the year. We're just going to try some kids out the remaining games here, give them some leverage, go home, get some rest. Yeah. We'll see you in July or August.
Don't push your luck because at the last few games, that's probably where he would hurt himself, right? That's
why I say go whoa.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, did you see the hit that he laid on Luciano? What's his name there? I'm blanking on his name.
Oh yes, and the penalty
kill. Blew him up, man.
Blackhawks pick, right? Levchinov.
That's it.
Did he use his shoulders? He might be feeling
still playing hard.
He might be feeling a little.
He smoked his ass.
He might be feeling a little better that if he's hitting like that, though. That might be a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he had a good weekend. He had 2 goals and an assist.
That might be a sign that he is feeling a little better, and his tear was really minuscule, like mine were. They were really small, and that might be a sign that he's starting to play better. He's feeling better. I'll go away now.
No, it's okay. It's always good to get expert analysis. One last question that has nothing to do with TK. Matvey, does he hit 60 points? Yes or no, Eric? He's got 50 right now with 11 games to play.
Oh, man. Good question.
Sorry, 10 games to play.
10 games and he needs 11 points? Sorry,
10
what was it?
points.
No.
10 and 10.
10 and 10? Could he do it? Yes. Will he? You know what? I'm going to say yes. Fuck it. I'm going to say yes. I have him
But
on my fantasy team, so that'll be great for me in the playoffs.
I'm going to say 60 on the dot. I think he gets 5 more goals, 5 more assists. I think
I'm
he's
gonna throw-
he's been on a little bit of a goalless streak for a bit, but he's racking up the apples at least.
I'm going to throw in and say I think he's going to get 57 or 58 for the
That's
season.
I predicted if we go back on one of our PAP episodes, I believe I picked him at 56 points, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact amount. I think it's
I remember. I think you had him at 56. Yeah.
something like that. So if I get that, free ice cream sundae for me.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I predicted someone around like 55 points. So
Yeah,
that's pretty much what I expected.
He's had a great year. That's all we can say. 20 goals, 30 assists. He's done his job. We've gotten exactly what we expected out of him.
No complaints.
But anyway, let's move on to the next thing. So we are at the final 10 games of the year. We obviously know they're not making the playoffs. They're at 65 points with 72 games to go. I mean, with 72 games played, 10 games to go. They have a lot of winnable games coming up after this next one against Toronto. They play Buffalo twice. They play Nashville again. So there's games I think are potentially winning this too. I'll ask this, which is completely unrelated to the winnable thing. What are some line combinations you would like to potentially see them go with? Like, are there any guys you like to see called up? And if so, where would you like to see them inserted into the lineup the rest of the way?
Well, the one guy I'd like to see, at least just give him a little bit more of a chance in a more offensive role. I want to see Peltier. Like, we got to find out what he is, because we have to offer him a contract this year, and I don't know, like, are the Flyers going to even qualify him, or like I don't know, like he was right now. He's still kind of one of the major pieces that we got in that Frost Farabee trade.
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time, like, I don't want to give up on the guy, and like he hasn't been great. Like, I've seen some really good, but I've seen some like not so good from him also.
I feel like he's shown a little more spark the last couple games. The last 5 games, I've seen more from him for sure.
No, he has, but at the same time, like, what do you want the guy to do? Like, he's playing like on a 4th line with Delory. Like, nothing against Delory, but like, come on, like, let's get serious here. No, but like, yeah, I'd like to see him in a more offensive situation. Like, I'll give you some lines that I'd like to see before any call-ups. Okay, I'd like to see maybe like Tippett with Coots and TK. Just put like your veterans on one line.
Okay.
Then I'd like to see Forster, Cates, but with Mishkov. I'm curious. Like, I want to see Mishkov on that line. So let's see how that goes. And then you could put like Peltier with Paling and Brink. Now, you're a little small on the wing there, but at the end of the day, who cares? Like,
what a checking line.
But like, look, Peltier's a feisty little guy. Brink too is being a lot feistier. And Paling's Paling. Like, he's solid. Yeah. And also another thing that's weird about Peltier with like Torts is putting him on his off wing also. Like, he's been playing a lot on the right side. Now, I don't know if that's like because Peltier's comfortable or he just wants. I don't know why, because he's playing Lixell on his strong side, but he's playing like, look, Lixell, I've seen enough. Like,
oh God, please! I'm the same, man. This is another Wade Allison, career AHLer. Please just send him down. He can't. He looks good in the AHL, and he looks like, oh, maybe this guy can finally break out. And then he comes to the NHL, he just can't do it. He's going to be 26 in a few months. He is what he is at this point.
Exactly. Look, he's a tweener at best, man. Like, you could put him, you stick him on your 4th line for a couple games and just get a little energy out of him, or maybe like a point here or there. But like, like he's getting to the point. Like I said, Lixell's getting to the point. He's getting older, and like we've seen enough. Like, I don't need to see Lixell on the 3rd line now. I want to see Peltier on take his spot on a more offensive line, because we don't know what Peltier can be. We don't know what he is. So like, why are we giving a guy that right now we're probably know what he is? And if I have to look, because I know at one point Lixell didn't have enough games to keep his RFA status. He was going to be a UFA at the end of the year. So I don't know. Like, now he's been playing more, so I'm not sure if he reached the threshold. So Lixell's probably not even going to be here next year. So why not give the opportunity to a guy that he's still going to be an RFA next year?
Yeah.
He was a major piece in a trade. So like, give him the opportunities that you're giving Lixell. Like, why are we wasting these minutes on Lixell? So Anyway, so there's that. And Luchenko, I don't know if they're gonna call him up for the remaining because now apparently his season is over in the OHL. Guelph is done. So are they gonna bring him over, give him a few games? And so apparently they're allowed to because his season is over in the OHL, he's allowed to go to the AHL for the remainder of this season. So
Is
I don't
that
know.
true? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought it was the age thing was still an
no,
issue.
apparently it was oh man, I was actually talking on somebody, well, messaging with somebody on Twitter that clarified it for me.
I heard this
And
before too. I've heard this before.
no, it's okay. So apparently the rule is okay, he can't play in the NHL until he's 20. Okay. But that's
AHL, you mean?
AHL. Sorry, he cannot play in the AHL until he's 20. But in the case that your OHL season is finished, you are allowed to go. You're allowed to finish the season in the AHL as long as your OHL season, your junior season is finished.
Okay.
I don't know if it was
That's
Kevin
interesting.
Pierce.
I never knew that either.
No, I heard
Anyway,
this before. I think that's exactly what it is. You're right. I heard it about another player on some
Yeah.
on the show.
So like next season, he wouldn't be eligible to go to the AHL at the
Okay.
start of next season because he doesn't because you have to be 20 by December 31st of that given season. So
Okay.
and he won't. He'll still be 19, so he won't be eligible. But there was talks that they wanted to renegotiate that deal. So they were thinking of moving it to 19, but nothing has happened yet. So as far as the rules go, next season he won't be eligible, but he could come this year and finish the season in the HL. So yeah,
Okay.
so that's it. Luchenko. And now the Flyers only have one more call up. So I don't know, do they call up Tuomola? Do they call up Brenkin? I'm not sure, but we'll see.
So that's a few interesting points he made there. As far as Luchenko, if he can go to the AHL, I'm for it. If you're going to call him up to the NHL, I do want to wait where you won't burn a year off as ELC.
Mhm.
I don't know how. I think it's what 8 games you can play before you
10
burn.
10 games.
Nine. If you
9.
play, it's
yeah.
9. If you play your
Yeah.
10th game, then you burned the season.
Exactly.
I think he's played what, like 3 in the NHL?
He's played 4.
Okay, so you only get him for 5 games. So
Yeah.
if you want to bring him up from game 78 to 82 and play him all 5, I'm fine with it. Otherwise, play him in the AHL, maybe give him a head start there. I'd be cool with that too. I want him to play at some capacity in these remaining games, but definitely don't want to burn off the ELC here. That's a big thing. That's number one. The call up for Benkin. That's no doubt about it. This kid looks like he's already made an impact in the AHL. In 4 games, he's got 2 goals and an assist, both on the power play. Take notes, Rocky Thompson. I love to see this kid up here. He could be your next big net front presence. He plays a physical style. He puts his fat ass in front of the net, which is awesome. He's a character, which is cool too. But I'd like to see what you got in the kid. Like he's a big physical winger, which is something this team has been lacking. You can play him in your middle 6 just to get him a couple games under his belt before the year ends. Now, same thing with him. He played 7 games in Toronto, so you got to be careful with his ELC. Maybe you bring him up for the last 2 games. You don't want to burn a year off that as well. Then, as for lines, I'm pretty similar to you. The only thing is, I probably would like to see this TK and Mitchkov pairing stick just to see how it looks the rest of the year. Even if you move Konnectny to the left wing for a little while too. Like, what the hell you got to lose? I know Konnectny's a right winger and he feels more comfortable there, but the same could be said about Michkov too. So maybe you run Konnectny, Couturier, Michkov and just see how that feels. As for your second pairing, I'd like to see Peltier get some more run. I absolutely agree with you there. Maybe you go, maybe move Peltier on a line with Cates and Forster, or Cates and Brink, depending on which side you want to put him on. That's some legitimate middle 6 talent you're playing him with. And now he's got a real chance to show himself. I absolutely agree with you there. You need to see what he has before the season ends. He looks like he has shown more spark today. He made a nice play or 2 in front of that. That was pretty good. He almost buried one, I believe, in the 3rd period. Just missed off of a feed. So I want to see him get 15 minutes of ice time, because as you mentioned, you ain't going to get shit with Nick Delorier. No disrespect to Delorier. But we know what his role is, and it's to pound other people's faces in. That's about it. And give the team a spark. And then maybe a third line. So say you end up having him take Brink's spot. I think Garnett Hathaway should be back soon. So maybe you run a third line of Hathaway when he's back. Or maybe, Hathaway, Paling, and Brink. And see how that works as well. Because sounds like Hathaway's close. I'd like him to finish the last couple games of the year if he can. If he's clear from the concussion, of course. You're not rushing him back, especially in this situation. And then the fourth, and then as I mentioned, if you can get Grabenkin up here or Luchenko or something like that for a couple games, sneak them in the middle six if you can. If you can't, then bring up on one of the guys from Lehigh just to see what they do. I'd like to see Anthony Richard maybe even get a little more run in the fourth line. Like he was actually making a little bit of an impact when he was here earlier in the year. I'd take him over Oli Lygzel. Like I'm good with this guy. Like he is what he is. He's another Wade Allison, a guy who actually may be worse because at least Wade Allison had a year where he got 9 goals. Lygzel's got 1 ever. Like enough. Like he's going to be 26 next year. What else do you need for proof? He's obviously not it. Let him go. Who cares? Abel's at least looks like a guy who could be an okay fourth liner, and he provides a little bit of spark. I get those are a dime a dozen, whatever, but maybe you run a fourth line with, Abel's, and you bring up Richard, and then maybe you have another fill in there with Delorier or something like that. Who knows? I would like to see a little bit of creativity mixed in, but I want to see Michkov and Konnectny at least a little bit more for the rest of the season, just to see how it works out. I didn't mention Tippett, did I? I just realized that. I don't think I mentioned Tippett in my lines. Holy shit. All right. Change of plans. Put Tippett on the second. You got to get Tippett in there somewhere too. But I would like to maybe run Tippett with Paling and Hathaway then. Or Grabenkin with Tippett and Paling. Just something like that. Like you're going to be rotating these guys. I want to see more from Peltier for sure. You know what you have in Tippett already. So that's my thought. But anything else you got?
Also, at the same time, like I don't think the Flyers want to like screw up with the Phantoms playoff chase.
True.
And so I don't know if they'll like I was just thinking about that now. Like even if Luchenko does, like let's say they bring him over, maybe they will just stick him in the AHL, and go on a run.
Give him a
Maybe
boost, and he can get some playoff experience.
yeah,
That's
exactly. And you
point.
know what? Stick maybe they don't call anybody up for the rest of the year, and just keep Brankin there and Richard there and everybody, and like try and go on a run because
they're battling right now. If I check, they're right there.
They're in a playoff spot right now. That's what I was looking at right now too. Like the top 6 teams make it out of the Atlantic Division, and they're 5th right now.
Though their playoff format is weird in the AHL.
Yeah,
it's so damn strange. They have like 75% of the teams make it, and it just throws me off.
Yeah, I just read that now. 23 teams make the playoffs, but there's
23 teams in a league where you have 32 of them. So and their divisions aren't even 100% aligned. You have 8, 7, 7, and 10.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. It's really weird. I have to look really more into it to see exactly how it works. But as far as I can see right now, the Phantoms are in a spot. So yeah, look, if Luchenko could come and come over and give them a run and see maybe Grabenkin and Luchenko play on a line together and like maybe some chemistry forms and they could be a duo that comes into next training camp like at least comfortable with each other and like can maybe form a nice little duo and see what happens. So that's why I don't know. Now that I think about it, like I don't know if they're really they want to screw up with the whole Phantoms thing, and especially like with Grabenkin, like do you call him up and then like poor Kolosov loses, poor Kolosov loses his friend, so it's like I don't know,
And Kolosov's been playing well down there lately, from what I've heard too. Like I haven't really followed all of their games to a T, but I've been keeping track a little bit. I've watched some of the highlights too, and he's looked solid from what I've been seeing. Maybe give him the rest of the year. Hopefully, he's a playoff goalie.
So. And if you know what, if Hathaway does come back, then you can send Lygzel back down, and
Thank God. I mean, okay.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, Do you have anything else to add before we go over next week's games?
No, that's it. That's it.
All right. Next week, Flyers have, I believe, 3 games. So they open up Tuesday at Toronto. Then they host Montreal, Rick's team, on Thursday. And then I believe they end the week at home against the Sabres, if I remember correctly. So this isn't as bad as last week's Murderers Row, but it's still 2 of the 3 games there are against quality opponents. So, Eric, I'll leave it to you. What's your predictions?
The way things are going right now, man, I'm thinking maybe let's say 0-2-1. I think they'll get a point somewhere. One of those games will go into overtime or a shootout. But Toronto is kind of struggling right now. They haven't been playing as great lately, so maybe their point comes there. But look, Montreal's on a tear right now. Montreal looks and they're fighting for that playoff spot. So I think they're gonna lose to Montreal. And look, Buffalo's been playing a lot better lately. Not for anything like that.
Buffalo scored on their own net 2 games ago. I don't take anything Buffalo does seriously.
Yeah, but that's a big game for the tank. So
yeah, that is true. Must lose game.
That's
Must lose game.
That's a 4-point game.
Lose that.
So,
remember, embrace the L.
Yeah,
embrace
look,
it.
If we can get to 4, at least we're sure to get one of the top 3 centers.
Yes, for sure. You're gonna get one of Bisa, Higgins, or Frendell. It's a lot.
Exactly. Because the way
all 3 of them are gone, you get the franchise defenseman instead. So
exactly. You know what? And because before at the start of the season, by the midpoint of the season, I remember seeing mock drafts and reading, and Frendell was always more 6, 7, 8, around there. But he's been tearing it up lately. Since he came back from injury, he's been tearing it up, and so his stock is just rising.
I put him ahead of Eklund. I put him ahead of McQueen. I put him ahead of Dinoye. I put him ahead of O'Brien. I think he's a clear top 5 guy right now.
100%. And even when the season started, I was looking at just a little bit reading up on these draft picks and whatever. And everything I read about Frendell, man, just really excited me. So I was kind of hoping. So look, if we could, because if you get number 4, you're guaranteed at least one of them. If you're at 5, you gotta hope one of these teams in front of you really likes one of the wingers.
It goes after Martone. Yeah.
So, and then I guess worst case you'd end up with a McQueen or a Desnoyers, but
McQueen gives me Nolan Patrick PTSD. He's a talented kid, and if he stays healthy, he should be a really good center in this league. But his injury history gives me Nolan Patrick PTSD. But anyway, Flyers games next week. Lost to Toronto. They'll lose 5-3. Lost to Montreal in overtime. They'll lose that one 4-3 because we always find a way to crap our pants in overtime. And then Buffalo will have a 47-round shootout in a scoreless game. No, I'm just kidding. I'll say they lose 2-1 to Buffalo in overtime as well. So they end up 0-1-2 is my prediction this week. The tank is on. Embrace the losses. Losses are wins, and wins are losses.
Yes. Exactly.
It's saying that just now kind of reminded me of what Chris Hansen says on Red Zone. I don't know if you're a big Red Zone fan.
No.
You ever watch NFL Red Zone?
I've watched
where losses become wins and wins become losses. It's the witching hour. I just got vibes of that saying that. But anyway, with that being said, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Flyer Again a Flyer. Thank you all for tuning in. Eric, awesome to have you on as always. Jamey should be back next week. We had a little bit of a mix-up, but everything should be good to go starting next week back to our 3-way group. We might, not definite yet, I don't want to make any promises, but we might be having a guest next week as well. I've been talking to our buddy over at the OMB Puck, Isaiah. He might be coming on, not definite yet, but we'll keep you updated if he is coming on or not. I'm going to talk to him a little bit, see if he's going to be interested in coming on still as well, or if he's available, not if he's interested. He's always open, he's told me. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in for another awesome installment of Flyer Again a Flyer. We will see you next week where we'll only have about 7 games left. We only got a couple more episodes after this until we go into off-season mode. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, let's go Flyers.